And I was yelling at God, what the hell am I doing here? This is crazy. And I heard the answer to go to the Roslyn Chapel. It's on the sacred ground. It's on ley lines. You got to go. So I went over to the Roslyn Chapel and I sat down. I said, okay, God, I'm here. And I heard go into the Akashic Records. And so I went into the Akashic Records and there was a being standing there. So I said, who are you? What do you want? And he said, I'm Lord Metatron. I'm here to assist you. And I said, okay. And then all this energy started flowing into the top of my head. And it was like a tornado coming in. I didn't know who Lord Metatron was. I had no idea.
Guy here, how you doing? My beautiful guest today is Tamra Oviatt, who is a renowned healer and spiritual teacher. And what a conversation you're in for. We tap into her journey and the wisdom that she has to share from it, but also about her experiences with pretty powerful energies, sacred activations, as she calls it, and also connecting with the divine source, let's just say that much. Let me know what you think of this conversation. I always love hearing from you. Let me know where you are in the world. If you're watching them on YouTube, always appreciate a like, a subscribe if you enjoy it, and of course, if you're feeling frisky, leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on it. It's a powerful conversation. Tamara's great, and I'm very excited to share it with you today. What is it? It's almost 2025. We've got lots coming up through 2025, including our retreat to Bali and our retreat to Croatia. We've just locked it down. We're going to be in Split in November 2025 in a 5-star, beautiful setting, diving deep as well. So Bali, Croatia, and of course we got some here in Australia. The Australian retreats tend to sell out very quickly because that's where myself and Matt are based, with Petra based in Croatia. Anyway, that's enough of me talking. If you want to find out more, there's links below, free meditations below, you name it. Get amongst it. Much love from me. Enjoy this podcast. Happy to share this with you today. See you soon. There we go. We are recording. Tamra, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm very happy to have you on the show. I want to start off like I normally start off with everyone, and that is, if you were at the dinner table sitting next to a stranger and they asked you, what do you do for a living these days? How would you respond?
I hope people live a happier life. To be able to live the life they want to without fear.
That's a big deal. Fear is a big deal. What have you, let's go there for a moment before we get into your backstory. What have you noticed about fear in your own personal journey, and how do you overcome it? Because I think there are so many elements unconsciously that hold us back from really leaning into what brings us true happiness and joy.
Well, really, fear does. It keeps us from exploring. It keeps us from living the life we truly want to live. It can really stop a person from creating anything. I've gotten through a lot of different fears through my life, and I used to be very, very fearful of everything and afraid to go out on my own and to be a healer on my own. And when I did, I fell flat on my face because I was full of all these fears. And I'm going to go into my story a little bit, but in 2012, I was really guided to go to England, and I went with $200 in my account, no credit card. And I stayed for 8 months, and I was able to pay my way. Every time I needed money, it showed up. So a client would book a session, and I was able to stay in Europe and travel for 8 months.
Wow.
And I was really fearful, of only having $200. What am I doing?
What drove you to make that decision? Because I honestly believe, I'm about to turn 50 this year, right? And I reflect back on my life and making different decisions and stuff. And it's almost, now I have children, it's almost like there's a more protective mechanism that keeps kicking in when I'm trying to surrender and let go. And I think about those decisions in life where we completely surrender to trusting everything's going to be okay. We can say it, verbalize it,
but it's not that easy. So I'm
No, it's
fascinated that
not that
yeah.
easy.
So
Yeah, no, I was on unemployment. I had left my job. No, wait a minute, I lost my unemployment. And so I was just living on, I was doing some trainings. I'd had some modality trainings. And so I was doing some trainings and I would get enough to feed us and, pay the utilities. Um, I was talking to a guy in England for about 6 months and he proposed to me. We were talking on Skype, and he proposed to me and I just wasn't sure, but I enjoyed talking to him. So that's how I got over to England, was to meet him. And I was scared to go. I only had $200 in my account. And, but I went because I had nothing else. I mean, I was kind of pushed to go. Actually, my house was in foreclosure and I wasn't going to have any place to live. I moved my son, who was a senior in high school, in with my sister, who lived by his school. And I went over there. I was supposed to go over there for 3 weeks to meet him. And so I went over there. So here we go into the story. So I went over there with $200 in my account. And I knew I wasn't going to marry him when I got there. And one morning I went for a walk through this graveyard. And I love their graveyards in England. They're just beautiful. And I was yelling at God, what the hell am I doing here? This is crazy. I mean, what am I doing here? And I heard the answer to go to Roslyn Chapel was the answer I received back. So I went back to his house and I told him what I heard. And he was on the phone with a friend of his who was very spiritual and really into all this stuff. So he's all, oh, you got to go. There's these, it's on the sacred ground. It's on ley lines. You got to go. So I said, okay. So I booked a train for the next day in a B&B, and I heard to have one of my clients meet me there. There's this client I used to work with on Skype. She lived in Scotland. So I went over to the Roslyn Chapel and met her, and we walked around, and I sat down, and I said, okay, God, I'm here. And I heard, go into the Akashic Records. One of the trainings I had was Akashic Records. And so I went into the Akashic Records and there was a being standing there, and in my mind's eye, of course, and I'd never seen anybody in there. I just always go in there to get readings. So I said, who are you? What do you want? And he said, I'm Lord Metatron. I'm here to assist you. And I said, okay. And then all this energy started flowing into the top of my head. And it was like a tornado coming in. And then it was like followed up by these golden seals.
oh,
And it took like 15 minutes. And when it was done, I heard ground and connect into Mother Earth. And our heads hurt, And so we went to lunch and we were talking. And then she was driving me back to my bus stop. And I heard, you're now crystalline, give these to others. So when I went back to my B&B, I was Skyping all my friends. Oh my God, you wouldn't believe what just happened. So I was giving them the activation. And I didn't know who Lord Metatron was. I had no idea. So I heard, you're now crystalline, give these to others, right? So I was giving them to my friends, and then I went back to his house, and it was time for me to go. But I didn't have any place to live when I went home. And I didn't know what to do. And I really didn't feel like it was time to go home. So I contacted this guy that had interviewed me, Vincent, and I said, I need a cheap place to stay because I needed to leave where I was staying, And he said, my girlfriend and I just got a flat. And it was really close to London. You can stay. And I traded him some classes and stuff and 50 pounds a week to stay there. So I went and stayed with him. And I was there, I don't remember how long, but it was like 3 weeks or a month or something like that. And during that time, I heard to go to Stonehenge. So I took a tour bus to Stonehenge. And I walked around Stonehenge and I was frozen. I didn't know anything about Stonehenge. I wasn't into any of this stuff. And so I sat there and I said, okay, God, I'm here. And Lord Metatron showed up again. I saw him again, and then this energy started flowing in again, and it scared me. I got so scared. I never felt anything like that in my life, you know? And then so I went back to his house, and I was told that these activations take through 3 weeks to integrate. And me, I want everything like this now. I want it now. I don't want to wait 3 weeks. And I said, I don't want to wait 3 weeks. I'm done. I want everything now. I've waited long enough for all of this, right? Well, I ended up sleeping for 3 days. I couldn't get out of bed. I got out of bed to go potty, get a drink, and I just laid in bed and listened to meditations and stuff for 3 days. That was all I could do. And then I'd sent an email out to my email list, to my clients, what had happened to me and if they wanted this. And I got a contact from a client that he was in London and he wanted a session. So I did a session with him on Skype, and I heard, ask him if he can go to Spain with him. Because this was, March 2012. And remember, the world's supposed to end right at the end of the year in December. So him and his wife had rented a house off grid. They had barrels of beans and rice and flashlights and you name it, they had it. And it ran off of solar, and it had a stream that fed the house. But he had it for a year, and they couldn't come to an agreement on the purchase of the house. So he was going to move out. So I met him at the airport. He called his wife and cleared it with her that it was okay, I go, right? So, because I asked him, he goes, well, let me ask my wife. And she said yes. So I hadn't seen this guy in 2 years. I meet him at the airport, and we fly off to Spain. And then we were there for over a month, and I was on this mountaintop, and all this energy just kept coming in, and I was learning so much. And all these different masters were coming to me and teaching me and giving me activations, but they clearly told me this is source energy. So, I now talk to source energy, but at the beginning I couldn't. I didn't have confidence in myself that I could do that or anybody would talk to me. So it's been quite a journey. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't know who Lord Metatron was. And I didn't know until like July that year. I ended up going and staying in, I could just go on and on and on about this story, but I spent time in Glastonbury, England, which is the heart chakra of the world. And oh my God, that's my favorite place. I return almost every year now.
Wow.
Before I was married, I was going for 6 months at a time. Now I go for a couple of weeks.
Okay, I'll ask you some questions if that's okay on what you shared. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I could just go on and on and on about the story. It was just absolutely wild.
It sounds it. It sounds it. And it's incredible that it came from a place of fear that you led into that. It's almost, that was the fuel that was needed to get you over there. And so a couple of questions for you then. You talk about crystalline. If you could explain that. You also mentioned golden seals, I believe. I'm fascinated in that because during an activation process, then what is that activation? What do you feel was happening to you? So this...
Yeah. Well, the golden seals I asked later because I noticed when I was running activations on people that they weren't receiving the golden seals. So I asked about that, and I was told that was for practitioners, for people to run the activation. So the golden seals are really like the programs. So like a program on fear of the future. There's a golden seal for that. There's a golden seal for the 18 strands of DNA. There's a golden seal for the Christ consciousness. So there's over 1,000 golden seals at this time that I've received in programs to help people shift. But sacred activation does a lot of high vibrational stuff, but really the core and what I'm all about is helping people shift out of the fear, the anger, the resentment, the sorrow, the sadness, and let all that go so they can create the life they desire.
Okay.
That's really what I'm all about. The crystalline, it's just the crystalline grid around the planet.
Okay. Okay. So then with your experience, like, as you said, you'd never received energy like that before. is it by actually going to a sacred site in that elevated energy was allowing you then to connect to higher
Yeah,
frequencies?
I absolutely. I think it was very important for me to be in that sacred site to open up and get those energies. Just like any time I go to Glastonbury, I get information that I'm normally not getting, like just walking through the Abbey, which has a couple ley lines running through it in town. I get all kinds of information.
Okay.
I mean, I give it information all the time, but you're in those sacred sites, you're in that energy, that vibration that opens you up to really receive information.
Yeah. Okay. And who's Lord Metatron? Could you, what have you learned since?
Lord Metatron is supposed to, from the biblical, I'm sorry, I don't really know the Bible, but he's supposed to sit
Yeah.
next to God. He's supposed to be in charge of all the angels.
Okay. Okay. So it's a big deal if he shows up then in,
I guess so, yeah.
yeah. So at this point then, just to kind of for me to dive into your story a bit more then, was it a part of you that always wanted to be a healer, or was a healer a conduit for healing? Had you had
No,
so this was had experiences from childhood that you realized that you had these abilities within you to receive, or was it just like,
I knew stuff as a child. I knew stuff. I could read people, but I didn't look into it. I was very Christian raised, and that was not what you do. You know what I mean? But at 18, I had a cat that was, she was one of those skinny cats, and she blew up like a football. And I was taking her for x-rays, blood tests. They couldn't find anything wrong with her. And she's very lethargic. I thought she was going to die. So I sat down on the bed after going through all this with the vet, and there was just nothing I could do. And I was sitting on the bed next to her, and I said, God, what do I do? And I heard, put your hands on her and pray. And I did. And the next morning I woke up and she was totally fine, walking around the house all skinny, like nothing had ever happened. And it blew me away. I never told anybody about that because it freaked me out, you know, but I knew God heals or Jesus heals. I knew that was real. I remember when I was young, my uncle had throat cancer and he didn't have insurance, so they wanted to operate on him. So the church that we belonged to all prayed for him and it disappeared and he healed. So I knew that was possible, but I was just really living my life. You know, I was a single. 1999, I kept getting the calling that I was supposed to be a healer, that this isn't what you're supposed to be doing. And I was very successful. I was divorced. I had 2 kids. I had a nanny in the house. The nanny had a car, I had a beautiful home. And I kept hearing, this isn't what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be a healer. And I heard it over and over and over again. So I finally said, fine, what do you want me to do? And so I started following the path and I started doing different trainings. And every time I did any trainings, I would hear, this isn't what you're going to be doing. This is for your training. And it was very frustrating. It was very, very frustrating because I kept trying to make a living at doing it and I couldn't.
right?
No matter what I was doing, I wasn't successful enough to get past barely feeding my kids. You know, I mean, I went back into the workforce a couple different times because I fell flat on my face. And like in 2011, I was barely getting by,
Okay.
trying to be a full-time healer. And I left a very successful job to do it. And so, and I know we put ourselves in these situations for reasons, you know, because I bought this house that wasn't able to refinance it because it was a prefab home and I own the land, is beautiful lot, just oak trees everywhere, but I couldn't refinance the house, but yet I had a 3-year loan where it was a balloon payment. And, you know, and now thinking about it, I could have just put another house on it and then got it financed. But that wasn't in my consciousness at the time.
Yeah.
So I ended up walking away from the house, very angry, very, very, very angry. I was pissed because I loved my house. I loved where I lived. And so I felt totally taken advantage of. I felt victimized, you know. But I know if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have gone to England And I ended up staying in Europe, like I said, for 8 months. My youngest son, when he graduated high school, he came and joined me in Italy, and then we ended up traveling. So, and then we took a cruise home for 2 weeks. So it ended up being quite an adventure, and I came home with money in the bank, and so that was really nice.
What did that whole experience teach you then about, I guess, fear and surrender?
Trust. Forget the fear, trust. I went through that again just a couple years ago because we live in Mexico and we were planning on, we bought a house with a 2-year loan, having to pay it off in 2 years. And I was thinking we'd be able to get financed, but with being self-employed in another country, it was impossible. If I was in the United States, no problem. I could get a loan for a house, but in another country, it was impossible. So I was kind of freaking out about it, but I ended up being able to pay my house off without a loan, which was truly what I really wanted. I didn't want a mortgage. I wanted to be mortgage free, but I was kind of freaking out still, going through that here. And here I was repeating something, right? But this time I got it right. This time I was able to go through it,
Yeah.
which was good.
Yeah.
But we got to trust. And here I was fearing this instead of just trusting and knowing I had it, because I was putting my trust in the banks and not myself. But when there was nowhere else to go and I had to put it on myself, I was able to create it.
So what happens? Because once you started going to those sacred sites then and started experiencing these connections with Lord Metatron, you're having these activations. Is that then where does your journey go from there? Is that then giving you the ability to feel and see and sense and experience energy at a different level? Is that information just?
Oh yeah,
Is it then just?
yeah.
Is that information just then coming through? Like, is it like education is coming direct from source as opposed to another teacher?
Yeah, everything, all the activations, I'd say 99% of the activations were channeled information coming in, what activation, what to run. And I'd run them and I didn't even know what they meant. And then I would be told later, like the beginning of these activations are all sacred geometry activations. I didn't know anything about sacred geometry when I started this journey. And then I was seeing the symbols. And when I was in London, because I was seeing the symbols around people's bodies, like the flower of life, and I would see it being repaired because they would be broken. Their sacred geometry around their body and would be broken, and I would see it being repaired. And I told my friend in London, when I was staying with him in London, what I saw, and he gave me Mizadek's book, The Flower of Life.
Wow.
And I opened it up to the tree of life symbol, and I went, oh my God, this is what I'm doing. That's when I learned I was actually activating people's sacred geometry and repairing it in their body.
Wow. So would you then say that the light body, the sacred geometry aspects of the non-physical aspects of ourselves, is that what's keeping us stuck if it's not flowing correctly? And that we're just going in
Yeah,
and
it's very important.
rewriting the program. Is that what it's boiling down to
Yeah.
at the end of the day? Why are we tripping over ourselves? Why we keep fear as our default mechanism, not trust, or there's beliefs in there?
Well,
How do you see it?
I mean, definitely the sacred geometry has a lot to do with it. But it's also, 95% of our lives are ran by our subconscious programming. And our subconscious programming comes from 0 to 7. Or in the womb or in what we heard. So we're running our lives on what we learned when we were children. So a lot of these fears are programmed from childhood. And of course, as we go along the way with different experiences, and then we just keep repeating those experiences like I did with the house, right? This time I got it right, but I was really scared I was going to go back down that road again, losing everything. I was really, really scared. And, but if I would have just stayed in trust, it would have been so much easier. But our subconscious belief systems run our lives, but they also run the world. And there's the collective consciousness that is running the world. And a lot of people are plugged into these different programs that are piped in. These vibrations are sent at the collective consciousness. And it doesn't matter what level you're at, because you could think, oh, I'm real spiritual, I'm this, I'm not. Well, guess what? They got programs for that too. You know what I mean? That you can get sucked into. And you got to watch it, because you can just start spinning out on this stuff and you got to pull yourself out of it. But really, you've got to clear out the subconscious belief system so you can hold the higher vibration. And there's a lot of people out there doing all these high vibrational activations, but people can't hold them because they still have the old hard drive and they haven't let go of all those old programs. It's like a computer. If you're going to put new updated software in, you got to delete the old software so that the new software can run. So it's a process. It's not just boom, you're intuitive and everything's magical. You've got to go through and shift out those programs.
Yeah.
In order to be able to really be free and live your life the way you truly want to.
Yeah, no, it is. I do find that whole thing interesting, along with trauma as well, held within the
Yes.
body and the nervous system. Do you feel like I kind of have this? I kind of ponder on these things as well. But if we're trying to reach nirvana or have these enlightened experiences, but we haven't cleared the trauma, or we're looking through a lens of an old belief system, surely then we are projecting through that old belief system onto whatever vibration is wanting to come through. So we're not actually seeing it in its purity, or we could have a fear really attached to what's happening because we're still going through the lens of an old belief or trauma.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So then
Yeah.
I guess the question is, what have you found along your way to help people overcome those beliefs or traumas, however you look at it?
The sacred activations, there's sacred activations for trauma, for victimizer, because most victims are also victimizers, so, and most victimizers are victims. So it really is twofold, but just listening to the activations clears out that from your whole timeline. And so that way it just disappears and it's gone. The
Wow.
program's no longer running in the background, because our subconscious belief systems are totally always running in the background. A lot of people go, oh, my ego is in the way, or that negative self-talk. No, that's your subconscious programs that are telling you they're there. And when you clear them out, then that changes. And then your beliefs change, then your experience change.
Wow. So simply listening to it, it's going in.
That's all you have to do.
Is there a participation though from the listener? Do they have to be open and willing to receive that sound of information?
Well, yeah, they won't be listening to it unless they're interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what?
Yeah, and it has to be their conscious permission,
Yeah. Okay. And what have you witnessed over the years with working people seeing this? And
I have had so many wonderful and crazy experiences. I mean, when I first started doing this, I loved this story because it was a friend of mine, and she was a client/friend. And when I was in California, and I told her for a year she needed to change her blood pressure medication. She didn't listen to me. She had a stroke. She calls me and I said, go to the hospital. She doesn't listen to me. She goes to bed. She calls me the next morning. She had another stroke. So I was really mad at her because I had told her what to do and what she needed to do. She didn't listen. So I went and picked her up. I took her to the hospital, confirmed she had 2 strokes. She came home on a walker. She couldn't brush her hair. She couldn't put on her bra. And she was a disaster. And for a year, I tried working on her. Everything I knew. I had a lot of different trainings and nothing worked. And after I received sacred activations, I was in Italy and I said, do you want these 3 activations? And she said, yes. So I ran the 3 activations, and the next day she was 95% better. She was off her walker. She could brush her hair. She could wear a bra. I've had people go in for, breast surgery or uterus surgery because they had cancer. They go in, nothing's there. So I've had a lot of miracles like that happen, and a lot of, families reunited. Somebody not talking to their kids for 2 years, their kids get in touch, like within a day or two of them receiving the activations. So there's so many different stories, and people, wanting to work on their intuitive book abilities. Now they have 4 books out, and they're out teaching and doing events. And so it's not just about health, it's about everything and all ways of life. It's about abundance, it's about relationships. It's about living a happy life. I don't know why I keep hearing to tell this story. So the friend of mine's friend that told me to go to the Roslyn Chapel, after I received the first 3 activations, I asked him if he wanted it. And he said, sure. So I ran him on him. And I heard to tell him he was going to be sensitive, and I didn't do that because still wasn't trusting what I was hearing. I wasn't trusting myself. This was at the beginning of this. And so he was a writer and an artist. He took all of his writing, all of his art in his computer into his front yard and did a bonfire, and broke up with his girlfriend of 9 years and left and moved into a Buddhist colony. And I freaked out. What did I do to this man? I talked to him. It took 30 days for I could talk to him because he didn't have any way to talk, right? I couldn't talk to him for 30 days. And when I talked to him, he said his life had never been better. He was so happy. His art was better. His writing was better. And he was so happy. So sometimes it could be really traumatic what you go through, but that's up to you. That's not up to me, But your life just gets better and better and better and better, really is what happens.
Wow.
Some people don't see anything or feel anything, and then their life just starts getting better. They start having better opportunities. They get raises at work. They get promotions. They meet a new best friend. It's just people start talking to them on the street, smiling at them. So it just helps in all ways of your life.
Do people generally feel it when listening to the activation? Do they feel a sense of change within their body, or sometimes, or does that just depend on how connected somebody is to their own bodies?
Exactly. It depends how connected they are, because some people don't feel anything, and then some people really feel it. Some people are really swaying in the energy and stuff while they're listening to it, but it doesn't matter. It's still working on everyone, if you feel it or not. You don't have to feel it for it to work.
Interesting. Another question, because I know you spoke about doing an activation on the call today, which would be wonderful. I'm keen to experience that. But so this is just how my brain works. So I'm just trying to keep navigating where it wants to go. But if we look at the planet for the moment, and there's clearly a shift in the collective consciousness that's kind of almost like holding a mirror back up to ourselves, and we're always throwing stones outward as opposed to looking, let's throw a rock at that person, that government, this decision, whatever it might be, without actually looking at inward, right? But then if there's this outward pressure that's continually put upon us and we're completely unconscious to it, what then do you feel is going to happen? Are we going to start to wake up anyway and start to look at these different modalities? Do we need these modalities to support us, or is it just a simple act of surrender and the shifts within us will start to come anyway? What do you feel happens?
Well, some shifts within you are going to start to come. I mean, they're just going to happen, and they are happening because of the collective consciousness, because we're changing the collective consciousness from fear-based to love-based. And really, that's my job. That's what I do. That's my focus, is not to warn people about this or that, or you have to do this or that, but really the heart center. And when we're able to really heal ourselves, then our world around us totally changes. And there's a lot of misinformation out there that the world's going to split in two and you better choose where you're at because this is going to happen and you have to be on the right road. And my message is about this is we're all in this together. And we don't have to worry about people waking up because there's a certain amount of us that's building a new collective consciousness If you listen to Greg Braden, it takes square root of 1%, right? We're way past that. So when the amount of us, which we're doing now, I see it. I see evidence of it. I see it. I'm so excited about our future. I think we're finally at that threshold where we're going to really start moving. But the certain percentage of us just focusing on love changes that subconsciousness for the whole planet. So everybody else that is just going about their business, their new consciousness program that they plug into is love now. It's not fear. It's not sickness. It's not hate. It's love. It's joy. It's happiness. It's creation. So as we switch that over, the whole world just starts switching and changing. And we don't have to worry about saving anybody. That's not our job. Our job is just to work on ourselves and to love everybody, not judge this person or that person. I mean, because, it's like, oh, I want to send love here, or I want to send love there. No, you got to send love everywhere, right? It's for everybody. It's not just for this person or that person.
Unconditional.
And that's how we change things.
Do you feel that we're going to see this shift in our lifetime? Like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I do.
And what do you feel is the potential of a human? Like, where can we take this? Because I've had some really interesting experiences on my journey. Like, thinking if I talked about it, people would lock me up like 10 years ago to say,
Yeah,
that
I
you're
know.
crazy.
There's some things I don't talk about, but there is one thing I'll say on this is when I was in Cornwall, there's a St. Michael's Mount, right? There's this island out there that you can walk out to. And it's a little mountain and it has a little chapel on it, but it's a castle. So I was walking around the castle and I went, yeah, okay, whatever. And so I was walking out the way you walk in, right? So I was just coming around and the guard, when I was walking out, she's all, wait a minute. You didn't go in the chapel. You have to go in the chapel. You can't leave without going in the chapel. I'm like, okay. So she opens this door that people aren't supposed to be going through, right? And she goes, go through there. And I went in there and I went in the chapel and I heard Archangel Michael say, sit down. And I sat down and he appeared in front of me and he told me I would see world peace in my lifetime. So that drives me.
Wow.
That's my drive. I know and I trust. I got goosebumps from head to toe right now. Absolutely that we get world peace. I totally believe that.
Isn't that interesting? I believe that's where Richard Rudd downloaded the gene keys. I might be mistaken.
I don't know.
In that sacred, because I had him on the podcast a few years ago, and as you were describing that little island and the castle and everything, then I'm like, oh, that sounds familiar. So anyway, I'm sure people will correct me if I'm wrong on YouTube. But last question with you with that then. For everyone listening, you speak of Archangel Michael, you speak of Archangel Metatron, and these different beings that are potentially there. Are they accessible to everyone?
Of course.
And how do we access it?
Meditate. Go into meditation. Spend some time in quiet. Talk to yourself. And so is God, or the highest source, or whatever you want to call it, that collective consciousness, creator. It's available to everyone. It's not just special people. Anyone can do it.
I only raise that because we get so caught up in the pace of life, and
I know, it spins you out.
Spins you out, yeah.
You get caught up in these programs and you're just spinning around and around and around and around. And you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. I see people do it all the time.
Yeah. Anyway, beautiful. Would you like to lean into the activations and maybe explain a little bit about what you're about to do? Or
Sure, absolutely. So I want to do a couple activations. I'll do the Lord Metatron. It's called Lord Metatron because that's who gave it to me. And I'll also do the Tree of Life, also called the Moses Codes. And I'm going to do the Christ Consciousness. These are all sacred geometry activations. And I did receive the Christ consciousness from Christ on the mountaintop in Spain. So he came and put his hand on my heart. It really changed me so much. You guys, I used to be full of fear and anger. um, so all you have to do is just sit quietly. That's it. There's nothing you have to do. There's nothing you have to think. But you might feel emotional a couple days later, or you might get really tired.
Okay.
And if you get emotional, it's just stuff shifting and clearing. So don't worry about it. You'll feel better, and then you'll feel amazing.
I was going to say I can feel the fear coming in as well, like not from me, but from the listeners. And it's like, am I going to quit my job? Am I going to just walk out of my relationship? If I listen,
Don't quit your job or make any changes for at least a month after you get these activations.
okay,
Don't make any changes. Don't do that.
beautiful.
Okay, so yeah, because you'll change. You are gonna be shifting some belief systems from this. So just give yourself time before you make any life-changing decisions. Okay. All right. So just sit with your eyes closed. That's all you have to do. This energy comes from source energy. I also want to add in fear of the future too. But I'm starting with Lord Metatron. Okay, I'm now running fear of the future. So just focus on any fears that might be coming up. Okay, just imagine you bring your energy into Mother Earth. Just help ground you a bit. Okay, and just open your eyes when you're ready.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a few questions for everyone listening. Is what happened there? So, how was that information passed on? Because there's no verbal, there's no light language, or like there seems to be a thing at the moment. Can you explain from your perspective on what you
If
experienced?
you're, yeah, if you're listening to this, you're receiving this from source energy. It comes directly from source to you. There's no light language or anything necessary. You can listen to this recording 10 years from now and it still have the same power in it when you listen to it. It doesn't go away. This is God energy. That's who I work for. And I do what I'm told, and this is what I do, and this is how I'm told to do it. To allow people to have their own experience. These aren't guided meditations. It's for you to allow you to have your own inner experience and your own thought process.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. With the podcast, I'm just aware of my time actually. Like as we're going through, with everything we have been covering today, is there anything else you want to make sure you share with us and the listeners before we start coming to the end and wrapping things up?
You are amazing just the way you are. And no matter what you do for a living, it doesn't matter. Everybody's equal. So don't think you're less than because you're a dishwasher or something. You're not less than. We need dishwashers. We need different levels. We need managers of countries. We need different levels, and everybody just as worthy as anybody else. And there's nothing to fear about the future. there's so much fear out there that we're going to split in two. People are thinking, well, what's going to happen to my brother or my sister? They're not on this journey with me. No, we all do this together. That's another separation program that's being piped into the consciousness. And a lot of these healers and channelers are channeling this information. And it's again, that's another level of the consciousness in the spin out. The truth is we're all in this together. And if I have to stand alone on this and I'm the only one saying it, I'm fine with that. But we're all in this together. So don't worry about it. You don't have to worry about saving them. They come along for the ride. And the next thing they know, life's easier. That's it. That's all they notice.
Beautiful. It still came to me then, for everyone listening to this, especially on YouTube where you leave a comment, share your experiences with us, what you just experienced in those 10 minutes. Or if you revisit that meditation and then share, I'd love to hear from you. It's amazing where people from all over the world come in and do that, you know. So be sure to. And if they want to dive deeper with you, Tamra, where can we send them? There will be links in the show notes, but it's always nice to say out your website.
TamaraOviatt.com.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of books on Amazon. I do practitioner trainings. So, and I do webinars. I've got whatever you need to help you shift. I've got it. Whatever level, wherever you want to go on that. You know, I create practitioners and teachers that teach this around the world. I'm pretty popular in Japan right now, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
I'm going over again. So I have a company that's promoting me over there. I have 2 books out in Japanese. So I'm so excited about that.
That's amazing. Japan looks an amazing country. I've only done a couple of nights in Tokyo, but it looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can't wait to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to explore for a week before I teach this time. Because last time I was just working,
yeah,
so this
of
time
course.
we're going to take some time out before I teach. So I'm really excited to go back there. I'm excited to connect with you, just listen to these activations. There's a lot of miracles that happen with just these first 3 activations. And since there's so much fear about the future right now, I wanted to include that. What I want for you is for you to be happy.
Yeah.
In whatever you're doing.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much. I'd love one last question before we
Thank
wrap
you.
her up. Is which one of your books would you recommend people dive into first?
Oh, God, I don't know. My books are transcribed practitioner trainings. So, there's a lot of nuggets of information in there because I'm kind of just in that channeling mode. So there's a lot of information that comes through and it talks about the activations and practitioner trainings, and it's a training. And then Out of the Mind Matrix is one of my books. That was a 12-week class I did. So it's all that information that was coming through. People really loved that book. But they're all transcribed. None of them, I did not sit and write them. They're all from recordings. So they're in that format, but there's a lot of information in them.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank you.
Look forward to hearing from
Much
everyone.
love.
Much love too. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.